Hello, lovely. How'd you do?
Hey,
You've always got that smile in every picture. How beautiful. Okay, so Carol, welcome to Free Flame Thoughts. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I am
Good, good. And let's start with how did you spend your day leading up to this live talk today?
well. Actually, I went out to London Bridge and hung out with,
Nice.
had lunch, walked around a bit, and took lots of pictures. And then I'm back here ready to have a conversation with you.
What did you have for lunch today?
I was at Nando's, and I'm a plant-based eater, so they've got something called the Imitator, I think it's called. Something.
The imitator. Tell me about that.
It's kind of made out of pea protein, and so they make it in a similar way to how it is that they cook the chicken. And I had it in a wrap, and I had chips and sweet corn.
Okay, nice. I'm pretty plant-based, at least 99.99, pescatarian-ish. So that sounds nice. Okay. So let's get into some warm-up questions in regards to just you as a soul. You know, I said I love to unlayer people a little bit as opposed to going straight into the meat of the conversation. Is that all right? Yeah. So let's start with who is Carole Pyke?
Okay, I'm a divine original, handcrafted by God.
Oh, okay. Is that copy and pasted or is that just a freestyle?
That's freestyle. That is me. That.
I love that. And I'm going to tell you why I'm going to salute you because only about three, no, maybe about 2 out of 10 people would say something like that, like me, like you, as opposed to I'm the mother, I'm the doctor, I'm the support worker. That is none of the things you are. It's what you do. So I'm glad that you are actually fully in touch with yourself, realizing that none of your strings and bows makes you, but the soul of you. So that's amazing. I love that. Repeat that. You are what?
I'm a divine original, handcrafted by God, and I'm fit for purpose. I am here because I've got purpose here on earth.
I absolutely love that. That is so beautiful. And what is your origin?
Right. Well, I came from my mother.
Girl, I can't with you today. That's actually a perfect answer. If I ask my mom the question, I don't know. Yeah? That's perfect. Hey. Okay, so where's your folks from?
Right. So my mum was Guyanese, and my father is Jamaican.
Nice, quite a strong mix. Okay, nice. And are they still with us? Are they in London or are they back home?
Now, my mum died at the age of 51,
Oh,
27 years ago,
God, that's so young.
and my father lives in New York.
Nice, nice. And how would your friends and family describe you?
That's a really good
How
question.
do you think they would? Or have you heard them describing you? What's your thoughts?
I guess like some of the words that I use are things like inspiration. I'm resilient. I'm funny and a little crazy. You know, I kind of warm, talkative.
Oh, that is nice. Is that how you describe yourself or how you think they'll describe you?
Now, this is actually how other people describe me.
Then how do you describe yourself? Do tell.
I think I would just say, actually, I do say that I'm weirdly wired, and that I'm crazy.
Weirdly wired, did you
Weirdly
say?
wired, yeah.
Well, join the club. Look at me. Hello.
And I'm a little crazy, but I spell crazy CRAZEE, and the E is capital, and it stands for Emmanuel, which means that Jesus is with me.
Okay. All right. We'll have that. We'll have that, girl. We'll have that. All right. So two more warm-up questions. Who are you when no one is watching?
I am 100% me. I smile. Actually, smiling is part of my DNA, isn't what it is that I do. So I smile in the face of adversity. I inspire me sometimes. You think like, oh my gosh, really?
Because if I should say that because all your, I don't, 99.99, I don't smile in my pictures. I just think I don't really put on fake smiles. It's very rare to catch them smiling. And I think I look better without smiling anyway in photographs. However, every photograph I came across with you was smiling. And I said to myself, how captivating and beautiful is this? However, how much of that is survival and how much is that in overcoming? Because as a human being, I don't think anyone genuinely smiles 24 hours a day about any kind of turbulence that comes with that. What's your thoughts?
Of course not. I mean, there are times when it is, I am in tears. There are times when it feels overwhelming and it's challenging, all of those kind of things. But my default is a smile. I've
That's
got
wonderful.
pictures with me with oxygen in my nose and I am smiling. And
I can relate. I'm a bit of a giggler as well, so that's me. I could be crying, but I'm like, oh, that's very me. My friends are like, can you make your mind up, please? Which emotion you want to have? Yeah. So I'll say no more. I relate. Last warm-up question. Where is your most favorite place in the world? No matter where. It could be your toilet.
right, okay. Anywhere where there is trees or water. And
I've
so,
seen that, and I'm going to be hanging out with you this summer. I know that for sure.
one of the things is like London Bridge, where I was today, because between Tower Bridge and kind of like that whole walk along there, I love that.
You're a tree baby, aren't you?
Anywhere where there's a park and there's a tree.
Oh my God, me too. Are you a barefoot walking fairy like me, or?
Well, not at the moment because I've got some mobility challenges. But funny, I was thinking about that the other day. I was thinking I wanted to do a video and like be barefoot. So who knows? Who knows?
Call me Carole. We make it happen. That's me all the time, girl. Yeah,
yeah.
That's me. Are you a tree hugger?
Yeah, I hug trees.
We're definitely hanging out. We're definitely hanging out. Okay, wonderful. All right. Welcome, guys. And for those of you who's just joined us, this is Miss Carole Pyke. We're going to be talking about elements of her life experiences with certain medical conditions, facial blindness, and surviving 2 strokes, and so much more. So, Carole, I know you want to get straight in at the end of with your ×2 stroke. I'll allow you just to lead the way with that. First of all, I will ask her, what age were you when you had your first stroke?
It's really interesting, actually, because my mum died at 51. I realised that there was part of me that didn't believe that I would live beyond 51. So I hadn't, it kind of feels like that's what it was I was thinking. I had my stroke on the 7th of January, 2014. I was 51 on the 22nd of January. Wow. And what I also discovered was that when I had the stroke, I mean, I didn't realise, I guess, the severity or anything at all the stroke. And the doctor that had diagnosed me, a year later, I was sitting on a committee with him. He said he was on holiday, he diagnosed the stroke, went on holiday, and then he phoned the hospital from Spain to check in on me because he was concerned. And I thought, wow, okay, so yeah. Whole thing of thinking, am I going to live beyond 51? And the stroke happened just before that.
So when you say the whole thing thinking, was that based on a fear because of what happened to your mum?
Well, I can't actually answer that fully because of the retrograde amnesia with the second stroke, but I do know it was something that had crossed my mind.
Okay. Where were you when it happened, and who found you?
Well, what was really interesting, because one of the things that the NHS have done a lot about the whole fast thing, and that, you know, if these things are present, you need to kind of go to the hospital. I actually gone swimming, and I was trying to swim in a straight line, and I kept vying to the right, and I kept trying to swim right. I've got an underlying condition called lupus, so I just thought it was a crazy thing that was happening, and I didn't think anything of it. And then I went home. And that night I was going to a Bible study, and it took me forever to get myself ready, and I couldn't work out why I couldn't coordinate myself.
Wow. And
then I was driving and I hit the wing mirror clear off my car, but I didn't see anything. So I didn't understand how that happened. So that was a Monday night. And then the Tuesday morning I was dropping some people somewhere, and the person in the passenger seat said, "Oh, that's a bit close." And I thought, oh, they're just being silly. And then I took them to the destination, and then I was playing with the children there, and I was going away to come back to see them and do lunch or something. And then I went driving home, and all I could hear was bang, and the airbags deployed.
Ooh.
And I'm thinking, okay, there was nothing there. I don't know what happened. And all I could think of was I came out of the car, the rubber was off the tyre, that the rubber was off the rim. And I remembered a friend of mine who has a mobility car as well, had a car accident. So I thought, well, she'd know what to do. So I called her, She came out. She called the ambulance and the police. I'd hit a parked car, and I was sitting in the back of the ambulance, and the police there now thinks I'm drunk. It was kind of early in the morning, morning-ish, and they think I'm drunk.
Wow.
They said to meet him at the hospital with a breathalyzer. And I thought all of this was hilarious because I've never had a breathalyzer before, so this is really cool. So they take me to the hospital, and you know, you've seen those movies where it is that the police are following the prisoner.
Yeah.
Okay, that was me.
Oh, wow.
The nurse had to say to them, leave her alone. I promise she's not going anywhere. And then he did the breathalyzer twice, and he was about to do it the third time when his colleague said, it's okay, it is clear. Because
and you had this accident because you'd had a stroke?
Yes.
Behind the wheel?
Yeah. So what had happened was I had no peripheral vision on my left side. So I couldn't see anything on my left side.
Caused by the stroke, just to make it clear. Right. Yeah.
But because you can't see it, you just don't believe that there's anything there. So yes, so that was that whole kind of like beginnings. So
let me just go into a bit more of the symptoms. So when this happened to you, did you identify within yourself that something's a bit different with me, or unusual, unconnected, disconnected, or did you feel any different other than the vision? Did you feel like, oh my God, I'm slurring, or I'm moving slower? What was your symptoms?
I didn't see anything different. And I'm saying, because I have a condition called lupus, which is an autoimmune disease, and I've had so many random things that has come of lupus, I just thought I was having a lupus flare. That's it. It will pass.
Mm.
And then when they said, actually, Carole, it's a stroke, and it was actually a right frontal lobe infarct. I love saying that because it sounds like a swear word.
You're so hilarious. I love you. Yeah. Oh my God. So when the doctor or nurse notified you that the cause of your car accident and your symptoms was based on having a stroke, can you remember at all the first stroke? Can you remember at all what your first thoughts were? What your first emotions was?
I cried because I think that whole idea of your name and stroke in the same sentence, because I don't know anything about stroke, and like, oh my gosh, this is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that was my first.
Who was the first person you called or text?
I don't know. I don't know, actually. I don't remember what happened after that.
So after your first stroke, you were still clearly then still walking, because you didn't realize you had a stroke. You were still mobile. Yeah. You were walking. You were speaking fine. Your speech hadn't been affected.
Well, my friend says that my speech was slurred, and I think that when I was in the ambulance with the policeman, that's what alerted him to possibly I was drunk, because my speech was, but I didn't notice.
Okay. So at the time, it was just the vision.
No, because I didn't know that was a vision problem.
Oh wow!
So I actually didn't know that there was a real problem. I didn't know.
So then, how many days or hours did you spend in hospital? What happened next?
Right. Well, I think the first I think I was in hospital twice, but I don't actually remember the details.
Okay.
It was hospital twice. So actually, yeah. So I was in hospital twice.
And how soon after the first stroke did you then have the second? And do you know what triggered the second?
Well, what was really interesting was that I was celebrating 5 years since the first stroke. So I thought, what should I do? Oh yeah, I know. I'll have another one.
So 5 years in between the first to the second.
Yeah.
Do you remember what the second symptoms were?
So the second symptoms were I had a headache for 3 days. It was the worst headache I've ever had in my life. But I didn't do anything about it. So I was helping somebody out in their office on the Monday, and I went there anyway. And I had the headache all day, and I took medication, but nothing helped. And then I came home in the house with no noise, not talking to anybody for like a day and a half. And then my best friend called me, and he said, I haven't spoken to you for 2 days. What's going on? So I said, a headache. And he said, okay, what time shall I call you to find out what the doctor says? I'm like, oh, really? So I went to see my doctor, and my blood pressure was normal.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a horrendous headache. My blood pressure was normal, but my doctor had been with me with the first stroke and through my lupus and various hospital stuff. And he said, "I know you, Carole. Let's get this checked out."
Wow.
And quite literally, if my best friend hadn't said what he said, if I'd seen another doctor, the date on my death certificate would have been the 28th of February 2019.
So let me just ask you something. For those who suffer with headaches or maybe just randomly have one, I can have a headache for 2 weeks straight and I'll just, ride through it. Is that a big telltale sign for a stroke?
Not necessarily, but it could.
Okay.
But what I'd say to anybody with headaches, if you've got an unusual headache or it's there for a long period of time, don't be a martyr to it. Don't. Because we don't know enough about the brain to actually say, oh yeah, do you know what, that's going to be fine. And it's better for you to check it out and for them to tell you it's nothing than you not to check it out and something happens.
You're the second person to mention that. I have a friend and her sister had a headache and then it was like brain, tumor, but she just thought it was a headache. So that's quite scary. So tell us a bit about, so with your second one, no one found you, just had a headache. A friend said that, you should go to the doctor and that's how you kind of volunteered to go to the hospital, so to speak.
Yeah.
Okay, how long were you in hospital then, or hours, days?
Well, that was a really interesting one because another friend took me to the hospital and they admitted me to the local hospital, and I was there for about 12 hours and then they blue lighted me to King's College Hospital because the symptoms weren't getting better. So I it's both strokes have been right side, so I've got left side weakness, but the left side is getting worse rather than better, and so they were concerned that they might have to have done an operation. Okay. So they sent me to King's, but all of this time I'm still not clear what all of this is about. So I get to King's and I see a stroke doctor. They admit me to a stroke ward, and I say to the doctor, "Why am I on a stroke ward?" And
oh, wow.
Carole, the bleed on the brain is a stroke. And I'd been involved with the Stroke Association before. So I said, oh my gosh, that means that I'm in the top set. I'm in the top percentile because only 15% of all strokes are bleeds. So my first stroke was a clot, and the second one was a hemorrhagic stroke, which is a bleed. And I said, oh my gosh, I'm in the top set. So I'm excited. And the doctor said, Carole, nobody thinks like that, which I think sums me up completely.
I think that's survival reaction. I think no one's really going to be excited they've had a stroke or they're in it's probably survival reaction to cope, also a coping mechanism, right?
But essentially was, this is the worst time of my life. I'm going to find a plus in this. I can find the silver lining in any cloud. You give me a cloud and I can find
that's my name. That's my name. Go on.
Okay. That whole thing, that this is something that's happened. I can't do anything about that. But you know what? Okay. Right. Yeah.
And was the second stroke the motive for you having the amnesia? Let's get a bit into that.
Right. So
part of the stroke.
As a result of the stroke, I've got facial blindness. So facial blindness essentially means that I don't necessarily recognize faces. So I might have known you for 20 years and you will stand in front of me and I will tell you I've never seen you before in my life. Because I've discovered that sight isn't a function of the eyes or just a function of the eyes. You take in the information and your brain processes it and gives it back to you. Right, so my brain, there's a short there, so it doesn't always process things to bring things back. And this started when I was in hospital and I looked in the mirror. The features were familiar, but I didn't know who she was.
Oh my goodness.
And the only reason
and this is yourself you're speaking about.
Yeah.
Oh.
The only reason I knew it was me was because the nurse was white. So I kind of worked it out by deduction. Okay, it can't be her. So yes, that.
Carole, I can't with you. Do you know that I'm not supposed to be laughing, but I can't help it. It's the way you describe things. Yeah.
And then the fact that every time I went to the toilet or to the bathroom, she was there. So I decided that she was my ride or die chick, this Carole Pyke girl. And for a while, I did talk about her in third person. I talk about her.
I still do that.
I I did talk about myself in the first.
Oh, wow. So you had to learn to recognize yourself. So now, with the amnesia, do you recognize yourself every day because you know it's you and you're in your mirror and you know it's your,
Yeah.
you have a connective recognition with yourself,
Well,
your visual self.
Okay, but the amnesia is retrograde amnesia, which essentially means I am the most sophisticated 3-year-old you're ever going to meet because my conscious memory is 3 years old. So before February 2019, I've got information, but I don't have memory.
Oh.
You know, so somebody could say to me, oh, you did this, or we did this together, and this is now information, but it's not a memory for me because I don't remember it. But I now have information.
You know, guys, just for a moment, I'd like you to pause just for a moment. Carole, you can sip some water while I just thank the viewers for being here. And of course, for those who don't get to watch this live, you can watch the playback. I'm so question, but this woman is so phenomenal, and I'm just in awe with the whole journey and how much gratitude myself and maybe many others ought to have for the large mercies we have and the small ones. And I'm trying to say to myself, this next question even makes sense, but I don't know it. I want to know. I want to understand. And so in my mind, how much based on your memory, because obviously in my mind I'm being logical, it probably don't make sense to what you're saying, but in my mind I'm wondering how much that has affected your life. But do you remember the life before? Because you have the information but not the memory, right?
Yeah, so I have no idea.
So in actual fact, do you have any trauma?
I guess from a brain injury point of view, there is trauma because actually it all kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
But one of there are lots of challenges, as you can imagine, on a daily basis. But some of the gifts are the fact that I am not attached to the past. So right now, I'm 100% present in this moment. Right, so I'm not attached to the past.
That is so profound.
I've got no frame of reference for fear, worry, anxiety, or regret because it's learnt behavior and it's based on the past. And so I have no idea. And it's not necessarily that I don't have the same emotions, but I can't label it in that way. So therefore, it doesn't have that impact on me because I'm not saying, oh yeah, this is fear now. And therefore it takes on the characteristics of that because I actually don't know. You know, I can never be bored. I don't know what being bored is all about.
So you actually live in the mindful state that us beings are trying to learn now with meditational life. You live in the present the entire time.
Yeah. You know, and, you know, I've got some classic examples of the whole present living. So I say this all the time. I say that, oh, I live in the now. But it was only an incident that happened a few weeks ago that really, really honed in that, oh my gosh, I had a challenge at an Apple store. I went to purchase something and I had made the whole online experience. I thought it meant one thing and it meant something else. And I went to pick it up, pick up an item, and it was actually at the Brighton store, and I live in London. And there was nothing that they could do. The whole system, which is crazy in itself, but there was nothing they could do. So I find myself in the Apple store in tears because it just highlighted some of the challenges that I have. Yeah, so I'm sitting there and I've been talking to this guy and he's been kind of really great. And I end up talking to Apple on the phone and we sort out essentially a refund because there's nothing else that they can do about it. Right, so I've been angry, frustrated, in tears. Right, so they sorted out the refund. So that moment is now passed. And in the next moment, I'm talking to this this gay guy about his love life and how much it is that God loves people. I mean, like, just kind of like stuff. And I'm listening to myself and thinking, okay, Carole, seriously, you were in tears just now.
So you remembered being in tears. Okay, right.
Yeah. You're kind of thinking like, okay, you really do live in the now. So my issue was about the stuff. There was a refund. That moment has now passed. And
so let's go. Go ahead.
We're having that conversation and we're laughing. And I'm thinking, wow, you really do live in the here and now. Oh my gosh.
That's astonishing. I'd love to know other layers to how your everyday life is affected so far. There's other things we're going to talk about, guys, in regards to Carole's medical journey and general life, but just a paramount question such as, you know, do you have a carer and you know, a PA, an assistant, or anyone that helps you in day-to-day life, an example?
No, but I need one. What's really challenging for so many people is that actually there is no real support to navigate this. So I'm saying to you, I've got retrograde amnesia, facial blindness. I've also got cognitive impairments, and I'm also slightly autistic. Oh yeah. So stuff is kind of like challenging a lots of times. And I've had to navigate this by myself. I've had to find the systems or the strategies to be able to cope or not cope, as it can be, because nobody's offering that. And that's partially because I do not show up as somebody that has any challenges.
So you won't, so you don't have a key worker. So is that because you haven't sought one? Because they are available, Carole.
I have no idea. Remember, I've got impairment. I don't know how to do these things. And that when it is.
So what about friends and family who would know how to do these things?
I don't know. When I said to medical staff, like the first time I heard that I was articulate and intelligent was whilst I was lying in a hospital bed with a bleed on my brain. I've got medical staff saying to me in a complete sentence, "You're articulate and intelligent." What does that mean?
So as you don't have care assistants currently, support workers, key workers, social worker, and especially an in-house care assistant, where you have the amnesia, let's talk about the health and safety in terms of how you live. You know, cooking, leaving the iron on. I mean, I'm being genuinely reflective here. I'm wondering, how does that affect your day-to-day life in terms of keeping yourself safe?
Well, I haven't actually used an iron for 3.5 years.
Oh, you're so lucky. How'd you get away with that?
Well, what I is I've got a lot of clothes that are actually the whole t-shirt material thing.
Oh my God, I love it.
If you wear it long enough, the creases drop out.
I can't with you, you know, young lady. So things like your clothing, and we're going to go back and read all the comments shortly, guys. So your iron you don't use, okay. How about cooking? How do you get around remembering that you've left something on the stove, an example, in terms of being safe?
Well, what I've discovered is that there are some pots that when you burn them, they really burn. I've gone through 2 sets of pots because there was. It's improved actually, because there were times where there was one particular occasion where the pot I cooked something. The pot was on the fire. I was in the front room eating. I could smell burning, but because I didn't have anything on the fire, I thought it was coming from somewhere else. So therefore, I didn't go and check anything. And it was only when I finished eating and put the plate in the kitchen that I realised that the pot was still on and the pot was burnt.
So you have no fire alarms, for example, smoke alarm, sorry?
Actually, I didn't. Actually, no, I got a smoke alarm. I don't know why. It didn't actually go off. But it's in there. And then there's another time where I'd had the rice on low and left the house for 4 hours.
So before we go on to like checking in on our viewers, what's it like in terms of, do you have supportive friendships or associate circles or even family that check in on you? Because I'm reflective right now and I'm thinking somebody must have said, you know, or suggested, can we get her a care assistant, social worker, an interview? And guys, if there's anyone watching this or watching the playback and you have resources, information that can support this conversation, and Carole, please let us know, because I'm really stunned that you don't have this support system naturally, because you are worthy for it.
Yeah, it is kind of it is hard, and I think that,
and the fact that you know you wasn't quite sure about the smoke alarm, you should be one of the priorities in your council or private house or whatever kind of borough you live in. All these things are so necessary. I'm really stunned.
Yeah, it's a kind of real interesting one. And like I said, because of how I present, we are a visual world, and I didn't realize just how much so. I don't look as though I have any challenges. And because I do not sound like it, so even if I'm explaining to you a challenge, I explain it in an articulate way.
I can relate. Yeah.
Nobody hears me. And
yeah.
I don't know how else to. I really don't. This is how it is. I speak. This
so
is me.
As I asked before, do you have family or friends around you?
Yeah, I do have some supportive people around me. But again, I think it's that whole thing where there are lots of people that say that essentially, if you need help, ask for it. I don't know a lot of time what to ask for. So therefore you don't ask for help.
Someone, even just one, needs to be like, let me call the local council or social services and get advice. But let's go to the comments, because maybe there's some resources there. I don't have my spectacles today, so you guys know I'm going to struggle. So let me headbutt the camera right now. And Amma, for one, is saying check with your local council. And Amma also says should be charities and support groups, depending what borough you are in, basically. That makes sense to me as well. You know how to speak correct English and understand words. Yes, she does. And Felicia says, such an inspirational woman. And she gives you the emoji of and love heart. And I can, yeah, 100%. Wayne's got the 100% emojis up. What's life like for you at the moment? Without me giving you too many, I'm just going to paste it. What's life like for you? What's your everyday routine like at the moment?
Okay, well, I'm still working on routine, but essentially, and 2022 has been a bit of a, I've spent more time in the house. I've been in hospital twice. I've spent more time in-house than I have actually spent outside in the first half of the year. But it's okay. I am changing that up in the second half. I saw a calf muscle in February and I'm wearing a boot.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a mobility is a bit.
I saw you with this boot still dancing around trees, and I'm like, this woman is amazing.
You know what I'm saying? So one of the things I want to say to everybody is that whilst I'm going through all of these things and they are challenging and all of those kind of things, the thing is, this is my starting point. So whatever is going on in your life, that is where you're starting from. And it also identifies the things that you need to navigate. So the reality is I've had two strokes and I have challenges. But that is my starting point. And that also identifies what I need to navigate in order to get where I get to. So I want to say to everybody, it doesn't mean that you aren't able to do it. In fact, scratch can't from your vocabulary. It doesn't exist.
100%.
Identify, where do I want to go? Right. These are my challenges. How do I navigate them? So change the question you ask yourself as opposed to, oh, this is whatever. Ask yourself, okay, how can I make it happen? Because otherwise we get stuck in the stuff.
So before you was able to truly smile through this process, can we talk a little bit about how it potentially may have affected your mental health? Does it? Behind closed doors?
No, I quite literally, as you see me online, if you see me in a video, see me and stuff, actually that is me. I'm not.
Because you touched upon when I spoke about the other side and saying that no one smiles 24 hours a day unless they're just slightly unhuman. And you were saying you also go through those odd, it's not realistic. You know, I'm gonna be real with you. I think that we often judge people by our own shortcomings. That's true also, But on the flip side, we all know that not everything people post on social media is 100% the truth. I can be posting great quotes and crying with a cup of tea behind it. That's very realistic, but I'm very honest with that part of me. So I'm trying to work out also, I know your mechanism and also your natural DNA is laughter, similar to me. But when you say there's times where you do have those tearful moments, let's talk a bit more about that side. That way I think people watching it can have a genuine, relate to that part of the journey of before the smiling and whilst you're smiling and what the tears are about and what evoked those tears. Let's get into a little bit about the emotive side of you.
One of the things I'd say is if you read my posts, I will tell you when I'm crying. So actually I'm real, quite real. Actually, there's a really great example when we talk about the kind of whole crying thing. On the 30th of December 2021, I'd watched a Christian movie. And this woman had cancer. Her boyfriend was a musician. He'd asked everybody to pray for her. She'd gone to have an operation. And when they'd gone in, the cancer had gone. Right, great. They get married. Everything's going really well. And then she feels unwell. And they then take her to hospital. And they say the cancer's back. And there's nothing that they can do about it. Right. So she's in hospital. She's asleep. She wakes up and says, the cancer has gone. She's no longer in pain. This is amazing. Her husband leaves the room to go and get the doctor. They come back and she's dead. Right. So I've watched this. In that moment, I asked myself, oh, do I want to do 2022? 30th of December, I don't know whether I want to do 2022.
What does that mean what does that mean? You had slightly suicidal thoughts, or
wait for it. I don't know if I want to do this. So I'm now in tears because actually this is kind of quite literally a crisis moment, because I have 2 bottles of morphine in the house.
Yeah, wow.
So it's the 30th of December. I don't know whether or not I'm going to take this or not. So I'm upstairs, the morphine is downstairs. I'm in that space of, okay, I don't know if I want to do 2022, you know, because it's going to be more of this. No. Right.
Yeah.
So that's where it is. I am at a crisis. I'm not calling anybody. I'm at a crisis. Okay. I'm in tears. Right. The next moment, I get and this is kind of really bizarre. Or actually, I'll tell you about my housemates. Actually, I'll tell you about my housemates, and it will all make sense. But in the next moment, I get an Instagram message. Now, anybody who's on Instagram, you know that you don't live in Instagram messaging. So the fact that I would get one and I would see it when I wasn't on social media and I wasn't talking to anybody, it was crazy in itself.
Yeah.
Right. My goddaughter's mother had sent me a message, forwarded a post at that same moment. And the message that she attached to it was, "You always say this."
Oh my gosh.
So I look at the post, and the post says, "The best is always in front of you."
Yeah.
Okay, right. So I hang out, I'm a Christian, and I hang out with who I call my besties, my 3 besties: JC, Jesus Christ, H, the Holy Spirit, and Papa G, God. So it's JC,
Okay.
H, my boys. Right. In that moment, H said to me, when you say that to people, do you believe it? If you don't believe it, that makes you a liar. And if you do believe it, then shut up and get on with it.
Oh, wow.
Right. So in that moment, I'm in a crisis and I'm in tears. The next moment, I'm laughing because I'm thinking, really? You're using my words? Ah!
Would you say it was the Holy Spirit that was speaking to you, that was governing you through this, yeah? Well, wonderful. Amen for that.
In one moment, in crisis, real proper crisis, and the next moment, I'm in laughter.
Wow.
And that shift, and then I'm thinking, hold on a minute, you do know that you're the only person that I know that could be on the edge of taking the morphine.
How close were you to taking the morphine?
Close.
Okay.
Yeah. So on that one moment, I'm there, and in the next moment, I'm in laughter, thinking, really, only you can do this. And I move from there to there without talking to anybody. So what I'm saying in terms of the kind of whole laughter, that whole piece, that is where I live.
Yeah, that's
there are
beautiful.
times when I have challenges or it feels overwhelming or whatever, but that's not where I live.
Yeah.
And I'm always going back home. You know, and
you see, for me, it's so important. I've been blessed to have had so many live talks with so many beautiful different souls, and I know that we would prefer, I would prefer to, and I'm going to give you elements, a little bit about me now. I'd prefer to say, hey, oh, what's popping, everybody? It's not realistic. But we prefer the world not to see. I mean, no one wants to show the world our broken heart side, our stress side, but it's not realistic for me to act like I'm always just so spiritual and this and that. And that's why, even though I don't want to take people back to a place that they've overcome, it's important that I unlayer that so that the viewers can be like, okay, I'm now fully inspired because I now know beyond just the laughter, she felt this. This is the real side. Beyond all the, hey, I'm fine, I'm great, because we are great. But the work it takes to maintain that is not always smiling. It's not always beautiful.
But essentially, I will tell you, I have what I call hot moments.
Yeah.
Open and transparent. So
yeah.
I will tell you that I am crying, right when I'm crying. In the middle of the tears, I will tell you that I'm crying. But I also, in the middle of the tears, also see the glimmer of light.
Yeah.
So I will share the tears and the light.
That is authentic. That.
Because I don't know any different, and I think that's the whole, I'm going to speak my truth. Truth in the moment is this, and this is what I'm learning from that.
Now, I know we're going to touch a little bit more on other conversations because Carole and I is going to have another talk on my other platform over the weekend. So I'm not going to go too much on other stuff, but just to touch a little bit for the viewers that's going to be on this platform and not that one necessarily. How difficult is it for you before we get to your sparkle branding and your merchandise and all that kind of wonderful stuff, how difficult is it for you, or is it difficult at all in terms of the reflectivity of relationships and love outside of, you know, Jesus Christ, the Holy Spirit and God, your free besties or however you say it? Do you ever consider that idea of having a union, having a partner? I know that you're Christian and so on. How does that part affect your personal life, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, first thing I want to say is anybody listening to this, either live or on the re-record, somebody knows my husband, and just in case it's you, you must know it's okay to introduce him to me. Okay?
I love it. I love it. So you're not, let's just say, like, what did the Pope say? You're not single, you're something and waiting. Yeah? No. What's it? How does it go? I'm not single, I am taken but waiting. Something along those lines.
Well, what I'd say is I'm happily single, but it's not my first choice.
Okay. Because I remember when we touched upon it a little bit and you kind of said, well, it's a bit difficult because my amnesia and my brain is at a certain age. And I was so intrigued.
It's going to be big.
I was so intrigued.
Well, the challenge that I've discovered is because I look a particular way, there are assumptions from the male side. There are lots of assumptions that are being made.
So let me be troublesome, okay? Let me be troublesome just for a minute.
Yeah.
So I'm a guy, I see you, you know, on your little walks, and I say, hi, excuse me, madam, sister, beautiful queen, how you doing? Are you able to respond the way you want, or does the brain go that way and your mouth says something else?
No, I can respond. I can respond because you've said hello to me. Hi, I can respond. But what's happening is that you've got an assumption about how it is that I look and what that actually then means.
So intimacy, general conversation, big people talk, you know. There
you go. I mean,
right.
I was in a Zoom room with some women and they were talking about sex.
Yeah.
One of the women,
as we do.
One of the women said, Carole, why does your face look like that? And I said, because I first of all, I'm the only born again virgin you've ever met. And secondly, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay, you tried to throw me on my own show, didn't you? It worked. You tried to throw me on my own show, it worked. I so want to unlay you, but I'm like, Lord, how far do I go with this Christian lady? I so want to, I don't want to exploit you, girl. I so want to. All right, what didn't you understand? What were they talking about? I'm going to let you lead me.
Yeah, they were talking about the act.
Sexuality, and you... Yeah. Is it that you don't remember it?
Yeah, I've got no memory. Remember, I've got no major memories before February 2019. So I have no idea what you're talking about. Okay.
So are you comfortable watching it, or you see something on TV? Can you relate or rewire that energy connection? No?
I'm not interested.
Do you feel like you're missing anything, or is it just not even there?
It's not there. It isn't a thing.
So maybe you just feel as much as companionship then, and like going out to parks, you'd like to share that with somebody. It's more on a heart dynamics than, would you say, as opposed to just the intimate side and the erotic side of man and woman and union.
Isn't the precursor to all of that from that whole friendship base? No point. And there have been some conversations with men that they are all at, I don't know where they are, but they're there by themselves because I'm not there.
Do you know what? I don't see you being in this position permanently.
Oh, yeah,
and I'm not just saying this to make you feel extra. You don't even need me to make you feel. You're already extra by yourself. You believe in you. Yeah, you got your sparkles. Okay, but this is not. I believe in my spirit and I trust my intuition deeply. This, like, you're so phenomenal that I don't care who he is. He's gonna want to be with you. He's going to want to be with you.
Yeah. I'm believing that.
Because you make sense.
And I'm
what you need. I guarantee you this. I feel it.
Yeah.
Wow. Tell us about your brand, your Sparkle brand, and what inspires you to even invent that.
Well, one of the things that I discovered when I was in hospital, actually, the first booking that I had to speak in 2019, I was in a wheelchair in pajamas on a stroke ward. There'd been a reading group, and there was a patient, a nurse, and 2 external people. And we did a round the table read, and then we had a free flow conversation like this. And the two external people and the nurse all looked at me and said, "You need to be a motivational speaker."
100%.
And I'm thinking, oh, okay. And then one of the women said, "When you are out of hospital, I'd like to book you to speak at my event." And I'm thinking, that's really good, because at this point, none of us know whether I can actually speak to an audience, because
and you have no fear anyway of how you'll be wired. Yeah. Oh my God.
She doesn't know me. So she has got nothing to go on apart from how I showed up.
Wow.
What makes it even more significant, remember, I'm in pajamas in a wheelchair. She's a white woman, and her audience are white middle-class men. So there was nothing in that scenario that said, "Oh yeah, Carole's the one for you."
Oh, she is the one for you. That's right.
Well, I spoke at her, it was actually a Rotary Club, I'm president of a Rotary Club, and I spoke there, and she left that position to go and do something else. And in her closing report, one of the most inspirational speakers that they have ever had was me.
Well, do you remember when I came across your profile and I said, I haven't gone on your page, but your profile picture, remind me, it says, "I am here."
Yeah.
And I went straight to your inbox. I'm like, you know what? I don't know you, but I know you're phenomenal, and I want to talk to you. Like, when can I book you? I know, are you public speaking? You're like, well, I hadn't even checked out your page, and I knew that you were fully capable. Yeah. My intuition was 100%. So, yeah.
Yeah, but that was fascinating for me. And the thing that I realized in all of that, the only thing that I had in all of that was that I knew, the element I knew of me was that I just show up. I show up as me. I just speak, and people get encouraged and inspired by that. So I knew who I was. And I'm realizing that when it is, I've said to lots of people, "Oh, this blah 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 blah," and people have looked at me and said, "But Carole, you've always been like that. You know, you've always been inspirational. You've always been resilient. You've always been those things." But I didn't know I was me. And what I'm realizing is that more and more of us do not know who we are.
That's why I asked the question at the beginning of every show, who is blah, 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 blah. Because people come up with "I am" based on what they do for a job, which has nothing to do with who you are, unless it really is your job who you are.
Yeah, but that's the kind of whole thing.
You know
that. So I realized that the foundation to success, any success, is based on who you think you are, because you cannot show up in any other way. So if you want to be successful but you think you're a failure, then guess what? You're not going to be able to make it, because you don't think of yourself in that way. You know, and anybody that is a Christian, that you can tell, we all say things like, "Well, this is what God says," or "This is what the Bible says." I'm going to tell you that it doesn't matter what God says. And when I say that, it's because God said it already, and he does. But the voice that you are hearing every single day of your life is your own. And if you are not saying what it is that he's saying, it don't matter what he says, because you're not living it. You're not.
So let me ask you a really brief question on that note. I know you've mentioned the Most High and being a Christian a few times, which is fabulous. Are you more religious than spiritual, or are you both?
I'm not religious. I'm all about a relationship with God. And I say to you, I hang out with my besties.
But when you say that, is that tied to, it doesn't have to be, you can have your own individual, is that tied to spirituality or just being?
Well, I guess I'm a Christian, so I would say that I was a Christian. And that me saying that I hang out with my besties is coming from the Christian faith. But it's a relationship. Because
absolutely right, okay. I got now you've clarified. I've got more your personal rendition of what my question was trying to get at. Okay.
Yeah, I have got the most amazing relationship with Papa G, JC, and H. Really, every single day of my life, like the Bible says that He will never leave us or forsake us. I've taken that to a whole nother level, and they are there and they show up. You know, like I was saying about that day when I was thinking of taking the morphine, and that message came through. The only reason I saw it is because they directed me. I didn't know that I was looking at it.
100%.
You know, and it's just the reinforcement that I'm still breathing because I've got a purpose.
I touched on a moment ago about your brand. So before you established what that is, I didn't get to really explore a little bit before we closed the live today about your cognitive impairment. Tell us a little bit about that before you leave us tonight.
I think essentially I liken it to a bit like joining the dots. Absolutely everything is that we do is a process, but because we do it automatically, we don't see the bits along the way.
Yeah.
Right. So for me, sometimes that's interrupted. So it's a bit like joining the dots. Sometimes I have all of the dots and I don't know how to join them. And sometimes I have some dots that are missing. So it's kind of a distracted kind of picture. So it's kind of more in terms of that and the whole element of processing things. And if you ask me a question, I can only answer the question you've asked me, not what you have implied or perhaps even suggested. I can only answer what you've asked.
That means people has to be what I love people to be, straight to the point, no left, no right, keep things straight and honest and basic. Yeah? Wow, I love it. Now tell us about this sparkle brand. I want to sparkle more, girl. Tell me about it.
One of my favorite scriptures in the Bible is, let your light so shine so that man can see your good works and glorify the Father. Right. And then I've got this concept called sparkle. But sparkle, there's a sparkle equation, which is to know who you are, understand the value you bring to the table, and then show up unapologetically on purpose. And I guarantee when those three are in alignment, magic happens. Because you don't
100%
compare yourself to anybody else. You don't have to make apologies for who it is that you are.
Yeah.
You show up and you are confident. You walk into a room like you were supposed to be there.
100%. My word's very much about being unapologetic. That's me. So you have the brand. So tell us what is the merchandise? That cups? Is that bottle? What? And you have these cards. You tell us about the cards.
Right. So
your new product that you're going to be releasing.
I'm a coach, and essentially I'm a marketing strategist that specializes in personal branding. So I do strategy, I do coaching, I do mentoring, do this, and then I've got this concept called the Sparkle Soundtrack.
Nice.
And it's based on the principle that we've got a soundtrack that's playing in our minds all the time, whether it's saying I'm not good enough, no, I can't do that, I did try that, I made that mistake. It's playing over and over in our heads, and we move in the direction of our strongest thoughts. So if your thoughts are always telling you a story based on what it was that you did wrong, what it was that didn't work, why it was that you can't do things, then you are always going to be tripping yourself up.
Yeah.
And I'm saying change the soundtrack. And it's also the premise that we talk about affirmations a lot. But if you are affirming something, but the backstory still says that you can't do it, it doesn't matter how strong your affirmations are, you're always going to revert back to that story that says I can't. So I'm standing there saying that, you know what, I'm worthy. And the story's saying, yeah, but no, you're not, because this happened, that happened, whatever. So I'm saying change the soundtrack, and then the affirmations now can have stronger roots because you've changed the soundtrack. So I've got, these are 28 different soundtracks for you to use, which can be one a day, you can one a week, whatever you like. And it's got a wooden block. I did have the wooden block somewhere, where you can stick it in the wooden block and you decide on which one it is that you're going to use, decide what it is that it's saying to you, and then also decide how you're going to walk it out. So
it's all word cards, and you apply it as a manifestation or a mantra to self on a daily. So is it like a daily 7 days, 7 cards, or
you could use it however it is it works for you. So
okay.
You know, so we're going to start with, we've got this.
It's literally all bright, colourful cards. That is so nice. Do you use that in your own life?
Yeah, I've realised that, yeah, maybe I should start using them, putting them into practice. These kind of double-sided cards. So yeah, so I'm doing that.
And when is this going to be released?
From Monday, actually, these are going to be available. So
where can people find it?
I would say to people, actually follow me on Instagram. That's kind of like,
yeah, I'm going to put all your, I'm going to actually tag you into this post and people can click on. That'll be amazing.
Design, sparkle, born to shine. And the whole thing about sparkle is that sparkle is, if you think about, what's those things?
Very nice.
An iceberg, the sparkle is the shine, but it's also the bit underneath. Because I'm saying that you need to know who you are and understand the value before it is that you can show up.
100%.
And shine. And quite literally, you become unforgettable. Because I guarantee anybody that's listening here, that whether you remember my name or anything that I've said, you actually won't forget me.
Me neither. Hello.
But that's, but that's that the whole thing, is that,
yeah,
that the sparkle doesn't have to be, you know, gregarious and you have to be out there and, you know, neon lights, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It is you being the best version of yourself consistently.
100%.
That's what it is. And the fact that people buy from people. So whether you're selling a product or service or at work, whatever, people buy from people. And one of the things that Sparkle does is it enables you to connect more powerfully with the hearts of people. You know, and one of the things I discovered actually was somebody I was working with, and she was going for a job interview, and we went through the whole presentation the night before, and she had a job interview at 10 a.m. for an hour. She did a presentation. They asked her to share the slides. She told them no. She will send them the slides afterwards.
Okay.
Right. So, and she, in the interview, she told them no, comfortably and confidently. He had the interview at 10 o'clock. She was, so it was about an hour interview. By midday, she had an offer letter. And
wow.
That they had to get in quickly because they didn't want to lose her, and that she had gravitas. And I said, you know that sparkle, don't you? The bottom line was that she was confident about who she was, the value that she was bringing, and that she was showing up as herself. And if they said no, she was still okay, because the value of who she was didn't change.
I love, there's something that you've said repeatedly tonight that I really love. I have many words I may use, but I love that you say showing up as myself. Because even though I do anyway, I love that. I'm showing up as myself. Yeah, I'm going to put that on my status today on Facebook. I love it.
This is
I love it.
That everybody needs to take on board.
But can you remind us where people can find your sparkle cards?
Well, I'm saying that actually follow me on Instagram, because actually I'm kind of working out the last minute bits and pieces.
You would then promote it on your page and people can then locate where to find it.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I'm going to flick through a few last comments and then we're going to slowly close this live. So feel free to sip a drink or whatever you want to do in the backdrop. Carole, give me 2 minutes and let's see what people have to say. Let me once again headbutt this camera as I don't have my spectacles. Lord help me.
You need to get your glasses, man. Get your glasses.
Girl, I normally have my specs. They are like, not even 20/20, 50/50 vision. Felicia says, amen, Sister Carole. And Carole, you are truly amazing. Yeah. And Crown Jewel says, you have a lot of work to do. God will have you busy touching lives. Oh my God, yes. And Marie says, you are truly amazing. And Butterfly says, blessings. Wow. Carole, Miss Pyke, you have been an amazing, amazing guest speaker. I'm going to have I'm literally going to be reflecting on some of the things we spoke about today differently, because this is a whole different level of appreciation, you know, in terms of what we have and what, you know, people, what they go through. But hey, before we get into that, upon reflection, can we have a moment of, afterthoughts with you, which is me asking you how you feel about your live talk with you today. What are your afterthoughts, Carole?
That's fabulous. And I realised that I love talking. No, I love connecting with people and just sharing my take on the world and on life. And I believe that my purpose, why I'm still alive, is to shine the light in the darkness for others to see their way. And I just want to everybody to just be the best version of you, because only you've got the combination of experience, expertise, failures, mistakes, successes, and triumphs. There is quite literally nobody else in the entire universe that's like you, which already makes you unique and special. But you can look it out, because all of the stuff that you've been through, in fact, I want to say to you, however old it is you are now, the bottom line is every emotion that you're ever going to experience in your life, you have already experienced it. It may not be, they're at different levels, obviously, but you have given birth. Even if you haven't had a baby, you've given birth to an idea. You've felt loss. Even if you haven't lost loved one, you've lost relationship. You have felt those things. You feel anger, fear, all of those emotions. And you know what? You've navigated them and you've overcome them because you're here today. So therefore, everything is still possible. And particularly is the fact that you're breathing. I want to say to you, the fact that you are breathing means that there is nothing that's impossible.
Well, amen to that. Miss Lady C. Pyke, you have been a wonderful guest speaker. Truly, I think there are many people that do public speaking. This is me doing public speaking. There's so many layers to it. But I think you being a coach, this, that, girl, you playing. You got so much work to do. And we're going to hang out this summer, hopefully, and hug trees. So I'm going to be, you might have to block me from your phone. Just let me know.
I'm good with that. Hey.
Carole, you've been amazing. Thank you so much for joining us. There's a couple last comments I want to read. Let's see. Yeah, Phoebe says, I love that you're living up to your purpose and really touching. Emma says, great show. And Mr. Jules says, oh, the world needs you. Yeah, 100%. Wow, that was amazing.
Watch out, Carole, here I come.
Hey, hello, here we come. I'm coming.
Okay.
Listen, oh, look.
From my heart to yours, sending you lots of love.
Oh, that is so nice. I want one of those. Yeah, that is so cute. I'm going to be calling you shortly after this live. We'd like to talk. But in the meanwhile, let me say goodbye to the guests. And if you can see a little X on your screen, I don't know if it's the left or the right of you, if you just press it, it will allow you to exit the live. Thank you so much, Carole. Can you see it? Namaste. Oh my God, guys, that was amazing. If you really loved that show, please throw me up some more hearts because I need to add some myself. What a beautiful, empowering lady. Oh my God, that was amazing. Guys, I'll speak to you really soon. Thank you so much for hanging with us. Peace and love.